All units, please respond. We got a 7467. Two idiots spilling the tea about their neighbors.
Welcome to episode 136.
The Bodyguard tells all.
There goes the neighborhood.
Hey, God-fearing bougie crew and scheming CRN trolls. Shout out to our bougie crew in Louisiana and Indiana.
All the Annas today.
Yes, Annas are coming in strong.
Thank you. Got a question, a comment, a neighbor story, a crazy story in general about a crazy rich person? Well, hit us up at 239-300-7276.
And to sponsor our show, please just send us an email at info@crazyrichneighbors.com to inquire about all the opportunities, and shout out to our amazing sponsor, Podcast Junkies, right here in Boca Raton, Florida.
We love it. Running the board is our trusty Benny Ben. Ben.
Hey, Benny Ben.
Hi,
Hey
Ben.
guys, how's it going?
Doing great. How you doing?
Oh, you know I'm doing well.
Oh,
you
he's
know
in a
I'm
good
doing
mood.
well.
Oh, if we didn't have a guest, we could dig into this big
I
smile.
think we're going to have a little chat after our show's wrapped
I think
today.
we'll have a little powwow later.
Yeah.
Yay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay. So joining us via Zoom is David Wilcox, the former bodyguard of Pat Robertson of the 700 Club fame. In addition, Pat Robertson was a media mogul, a religious broadcaster, a political commentator, a presidential candidate, and a Southern Baptist minister. David is also going to spill some serious tea about Ralph Reed, the former head of the Christian Coalition, and the stinker the HuffPo called one of the most monumental hypocrites of our time.
Oh, wow. Welcome, David.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey.
I take it from the title, you are crazy, just having me on. The idea is to get more listeners.
We're a little bit psycho.
We're risky booking.
Yeah, but we're fun. We're fun.
I know. This will be the most fun you'll have with your pants on, David.
Oh, Jesus. Now we have to slap another.
No, we're leaving it there.
Yeah.
We're leaving it there.
Okay.
What makes you think I've got them on now?
Oh, hey.
Okay, you fit right in.
Where's my sound effect board?
Oh, my gosh. Well, David, I grew up watching the 700 Club when I was a
sorry?
kid. I know. My parents made me do it. If I had to miss church, then we had to have church at home. So if it wasn't the 700 Club, then it was Frederick Price. Or
Did you ever watch that one from the
Tammy Faye?
Crystal Cathedral?
No. But what
Okay.
was Tammy Faye Baker and
Jim?
And
Yeah,
Jim?
Jim and Tammy.
Yes, child.
In fact, Jim and Tammy got their start at CBN doing a puppet ministry. believe it or
Yes.
not.
Oh, I remember. That was the fabric of my childhood.
Oh, so how did you end up being Pat Robertson's bodyguard?
I was born and raised in Southern California, a little town called Oceanside, where, as I like to refer to as where the debris meets the sea.
Oh.
I was a police officer out there. It was my first real job. I'd worked for the Walt Disney family in college or at Disneyland, and then got a job in Oceanside as a cop, and got injured and retired. And my wife at the time wanted to come back to Virginia, and she always wanted to work for the 700 Club, and she wanted to get her master's degree at what was then CBN University. It's now Regent University. And I was wired on codeine at the time from my injuries, and I said, okay, let's go. So we came back to Virginia, both enrolled in grad school. I was pursuing a degree in film and media, and I was looking for a job. So I went to Student Services and I said, hey, here's my application. I'd like to get a job. And they said, wow, you've got police experience. The head of CBN, Pat Robertson's thinking of running for president, and he's looking for bodyguards.
Wow.
And I said, how much does it pay and when do I start? So I went over to the studio headquarters building, which is kind of the focal point of the entire complex here in Virginia Beach, and interviewed, and they hired me on the spot, and the rest was history. But
Wow.
so it was a very bizarre existence. I was a newlywed. I was attending grad school full time, and then I was traveling around the world with Pat Robertson.
Wow. And about what year was that?
This was 85.
Okay.
And in fact, the first trip we went on, we were on the company plane, and Pat came stood next to me. He says, "Hey, I understand you're a grad student." I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, your education is very important, so I'm going to check on your grades every quarter, and if they're slipping, you're done protecting me."
Squeeze
Oh,
me?
wow.
Maybe he was trying to be helpful.
I think he was.
What was he really like, though? Was he a nice guy, a mean guy?
You know, I wrote this book, and it's a transitional story. When we started off, Pat was really a very nice, warm, decent guy. He really cared about people. He had a couple of organizations. Educational Products was a subsidiary of CBN. They were working to teach literacy programs in underdeveloped areas. He had Operation Blessing, which was a non-government organization, but they were always first in whenever there was a hurricane or a national disaster or whatever, feeding people. I mean, there was a real sense of pride working there. And I know, you don't like to discuss a lot of political topics on your podcast, but when he decided to go into politics and run for the presidency, and I will remember this day until the day I die. We were sitting in the car, the company car that we drove him around in. I was in the shotgun seat. Pat was in the back middle part of the seat, and on one side of him was his campaign manager, a guy named Mark Nuttall, and on the other side was a guy named Rob Hartley. Rob was the chief fundraiser, financial guy for CBN, and it reminded me of one of those old B movies where the guy is got the little devil and the angel on his shoulders, and they're both trying to tempt him to go their direction. And Nuttall was saying, "Pat, your campaign really needs access to the CBN donor base." It's a database that had 3.5 million fundraising names on it.
Wow.
And it was the lifeblood of CBN. Rob Hartley would come back, "Pat, you can't do that. That's against the law. We're a tax exempt status. We could lose our tax exempt status if you give them the list." And it went back and forth. And I sat there and I thought, we are really at a crossroads.
Uh-oh.
And there was this awkward moment of silence. And Pat Robertson turned to Rob Hartley and he said, "Give them the list." And right then I thought, we are done. We are
Oh my
finished.
gosh, that's
Wow.
illegal, right?
And isn't
It
it
might-
immoral to a degree as well?
Well,
But
first of all, it put the ministry's tax exempt status
Right.
in jeopardy. It violates federal campaign laws.
Holy
wow.
cowabungas.
And here's the killer. Pat went ahead, gave him the list. They started using fundraising, and Rob Hartley told him. Rob was kind of a prophetic guy. He said, "Pat, if you do that, donations to CBN are going to drop like a stone because people don't want to. They're going to get some of these little gray-haired old ladies may have $20 to give, and they're giving it to CBN.
Yes. They'll think it's one and the same, right?
Right, and suddenly they're going to get
That's fraudulent.
postcards and stuff from Americans for Robertson, and they're going to say, "Well, I'm going to send it to them," and so they're not going to give to CBN. And anyway, the longest story short of it was donations fell over 40%,
Oof.
and 630 ministry employees lost their jobs.
Oh.
What?
Yes.
It was that
Ooh.
big of an organization?
Oh yeah, CBN had probably close to 1,500 people.
Oh, wow.
And so when Pat's campaign was over after Super Tuesday and the handwriting was on the wall and he was not going to be the next president.
Not such a Super Tuesday for Pat.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, really. He came back and he literally grabbed a legal pad and he walked the halls of CBN and he stopped every employee he could find. And he said, "What is your name? What department do you work in? What do you do? And who's your direct supervisor?" And he wrote it down on the list. And he would go home at night and he would write out a list and he'd bring it in the next day and he would give it to my boss, who's an incredible man named Jim Small. And Jim's responsibility was to go around and lay off the people
Ooh.
that Pat had circled on the list.
Oh.
Why though? Why?
Because they were down 40%
There was no
donations.
money to-
They couldn't
There
pay
was no
people.
money to pay
Oh,
them.
wow.
We were hemorrhaging. And so it was almost like the angel of Pat, the angel of death, was passing over the ministry. But anyway, what happened at that point was Pat changed. He realized what was going to happen to this ministry that I built up over 40 years once I'm dead and gone. It was like a precursor. So he panicked and he started grasping at these get-rich-quick schemes, and that led to traveling to Zaire. And
Oh Lord.
if you want to Google a guy, Google Mobutu Sese Seko.
Well, that's
If
easier
we
said
can't
than
spell
done.
that, I can't even pretend to figure out how to spell that.
Mobutu.
Mobutu was a brutal dictator
Oh,
in Zaire.
wow.
He had killed tens of thousands of his own citizens in Zaire to keep the
Jesus.
peace. And he was looking for somebody of Pat's stature as far as a man of God and everything to commiserate with and be seen with. Anyway,
To legitimize him and
Wow.
to rehab his
Yeah.
image.
Like
Oh my-
paid endorsement.
So,
you're known by the company you keep.
but that's stupid for Pat to
I know.
risk his
Well, yeah.
reputation being
Wouldn't
with
you
that.
think?
Yes.
So how much do you think he was paid?
Well, let me tell you what he was paid. He went
Love it.
over there
And you went
He
on the
went
trip
there.
to you went on that trip?
with him. Yeah, and we're walking around Zaire looking at all the back countryside, and there's piles of diamonds outside these little mud huts where these people
Blood
live.
diamonds.
And now they were industrial grade, but they were just and people had scraped them out of their floors because they hurt their feet to walk on them. So there's these piles of diamonds. Pat starts talking to Mobutu, and he says, "Oh yeah, we've got diamonds galore in this country." So anyway, the long and short of it is, Pat formed a company, and he had Mobutu sign off on Pat's exclusive rights to mine for diamonds in Zaire.
Holy sizable.
And now it gets
But
worse.
under the name of the company?
It was called
700 diamonds.
African Development Corporation.
Oh,
my
African
God.
development. Oh
Development
yeah.
Pat's checkbook
Yeah.
is more like it.
Oh gosh.
Now
this is-
hold on to your hat here, because it gets worse.
Oh my lord.
Oh my land.
Zaire had was a point of refuge. Rwanda was experiencing a lot of bloodshed. About 1 million refugees fled Rwanda into Zaire, and a lot of them came down with I'm having a senior moment here. I want to say typhoid, but it was a
Cholera or something?
cholera. Exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you. They were coming down with cholera, and it was epidemic proportions. They were dying. They were laying out on these
Oh my god.
dirt fields dying.
Oh
Wow.
my god.
But Pat never wanted to put a crisis to waste. He gets on the 700 Club,
Oh, fundraising.
and he starts telling people through his Operation Blessing organization that he wants to raise millions of dollars to send teams of doctors and medicine over there to help these million refugees. And he had this thing called the Flying Hospital and all this other stuff. And the money came in, and Pat was leaning into the camera saying, "We've got to help these poor Rwandans." Anyway,
Oh my god.
if you want to read it in the book, all the details are there. But what he ended up doing is he raised millions of dollars for supposedly helping the Rwandan refugees. The largest percentage of that money went to fund transporting mining equipment and dredges to Zaire.
Oh
for
my
the-
god. Oh my
Wow.
god.
In fact, Doctors Without Borders was there, and they were asked, and they said, "Yeah, we saw who was here from CBN." They said about 12 people. They were all living in one tent. They were handing out Bibles and aspirin and Tylenol.
What the heck?
Oh my
it's like Doctors Without Borders meets Preachers Without Morals.
Oh my god. Yes.
So anyway,
Oh my lord.
so we went from a person that was
Horrible.
really focused on helping the underprivileged and minority areas and inner cities and all this stuff early on, to now he's chasing diamonds in Zaire. To further that, he then went to linked up with a guy named Charles Taylor, who was another brutal dictator, and signed a deal with him to mine gold in his country. And Taylor was later convicted by a international tribunal court for crimes against humanity.
Ooh, wow.
What?
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
This is crazy.
it sounds crazy, but it's the absolute truth.
So-
and I used to tell Pat, Pat, you didn't get where you are now by business ventures and gold mining, diamond mining. You got here through ministry. You danced with the one that brought you to the dance. What are you doing this for? And he says, we're going to make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah.
my-
Anyway,
So David,
Go ahead.
this is so intriguing. I cannot
Right?
believe that
I
this
can't
went
either.
down behind the scenes. So
It's always the real godly ones too,
oh
isn't
my
it?
gosh, it's crazy. That's why you can't worship man and the
No.
church,
That's right, Boo.
Was his diamond company successful?
no. Abysmal failure.
Good.
I wonder
They-
why.
I think they maybe came up with 2 or 3 diamonds that, were maybe the size of an eraser tip or something like that. It was
Oh
a
wow.
complete washout. When we went over there originally, when we first met with Mobutu, Pat came back through New York. We flew on the Concorde, and we
Of
flew
course you
back,
did.
and we flew back into New York City, and there was a lot of rumors going around that Pat. It was very peculiar because we were met when we got off the plane, and we were brought through a bypass that bypassed customs.
Oh boy.
And nobody searched any of our luggage or anything. And there was a rumor going around, and I was never able to substantiate it, that Pat had brought back a little satchel of some diamonds from Zaire on our first trip. But
Oh wow.
he also sent another guy over there, supposedly with about $300,000 in cash to make some purchases. And supposedly the guy was robbed. And the whole it's there's a case on out of the Norfolk Superior Courts that explains it all, but it just was a misfire from the get-go.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
just one of the things that
This
he
is
did.
crazy.
I don't know if you have any other questions, but I can tell you another thing he did. He started a multi-level marketing thing. It was called Benefits Plus, and Pat. I always accuse Pat of having a motto of ready, fire, aim.
Wow.
I was always shooting from the hip instead of doing his homework. Well, anyway, Benefits Plus was supposed to be a service to Christians. It was a way they were going to be able to make a little extra money. They would buy these discount cards, and they would sell these to friends, neighbors, family, whatever. And these cards provided discounts from major retailers and stuff. And it was supposed to make a lot of money. And Pat came to me one day, we were in Dallas having lunch. He says, I just hired 4 or 5 people who are the top of their pyramids in multi-level marketing, and they're going to come work for Benefits Plus. And I looked at him, I said, Pat, I'm just a dumb security guard, basically, but isn't the whole concept of a multi-level marketing to get to the top of your pyramid and stay there? I said, why would these guys, if they're legitimately there,
Oh,
give
my
all of that
God.
up to come to something as speculative as Benefits Plus, if they're legitimate?
Maybe they work for diamonds.
Well, yeah, really.
Oh my
Pat-
God.
Well, Pat's go-to term was, well, I met with them and they really love the Lord and they're going to make a lot of
Oh my Lanta.
So would he
And I told him-
recruit people from
told
the
him-
700 Club to work on this MLM scheme?
Yeah. Well, I told him, I said, Pat, your discernment is so bad that if Charles Manson drove up in front of CBN in a Mercedes wearing a $1,000 suit,
He wouldn't
and wearing
care.
Rolex,
Right?
He wouldn't
you'd make
care.
him a vice president.
He wouldn't care. He didn't care.
So anyway, long story short, I told him, I said, I want to run background checks on all these superstars you're bringing
Ooh,
in.
good
because
for
they're in
you.
a fiduciary capacity, and I'm supposed to protect not only you physically,
Right.
in your business ventures.
Protect him from himself is what it
Yes.
sounds
Yeah,
like.
I ran, and he had set them all up in offices inside the ministry.
Oh my gosh. Did you run background checks?
Oh yeah, I did.
And any
Anything
thugs?
juicy?
Let me enjoy it for a minute.
Oh, did you run checks on us before this podcast?
I haven't checked my in basket yet. I got a FedEx package from I think it was Equifax, ran the backgrounds for us, and I couldn't wait to get across the hall into Pat's office. I
He
walked in
wouldn't have
there,
cared.
and I said, I told Barbara, his assistant, I says, is the boss in? And he poked his head out of his office and said, what do you got, brother? And I said, got the background checks on all your multi-level superstars. And he grabbed it and he started reading, and his
cared.
eyes got real big, and he thumbed through it. There were fraud convictions, embezzlement.
Sounds like our neighborhood.
Wow.
I mean, bankruptcies, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, dang.
And he pulled me aside and he says,
Thugs.
I want you to get them off this property in the next 30 minutes.
But then he
Ooh.
let them on. It's
Because he's
crazy.
so like short-sighted. All he has dollar signs
man
in
of
his
desperation.
eyes.
He did it. Yeah, he got blind. He got gold fever, diamond fever, or whatever.
There's a greedy
Anyway,
mofo.
the multi-level marketing, he put another guy in charge of it, didn't know really what they were doing, and it collapsed. And all these people, some people had spent $10, $15, $20,000 investments buying all the literature and the marketing tools and the cards and everything. And they turned out basically to collapse and be worthless, and people lost their money.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, there's story after story after story. And I'm taking a lot of heat from these books right now because
I'm sure.
Well, when
Spilling
you're
all
over
the tea.
when you're over the target, that's when you get the heat.
Yes.
people only think they know Pat Robertson from the 1 hour of the 700 Club every day.
Yes.
You saw the man behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, I saw
Oh.
all the warts and blemishes, and that lives in the temper and the yelling and the screaming, and
Oh, talk
but,
to us about the temper.
well, Pat was a man born of privilege. I don't know if you were aware of it. His father
No.
was a career senator,
Oh.
U.S. senator. He's biologically related to two former presidents,
Oh, wow.
Benjamin Harrison.
That
and
means
William
nothing.
Henry.
Nowadays.
Yeah. But so he was born in privilege, and he grew up in privilege and attended the best schools. His dad pulled some strings for him to not have to go to combat in the Korean.
Oh,
Korean
wow.
War.
Oh wow.
So that translated over into his life at CBN, and he was basically the king. He had a small board of directors that he was supposed to report to, but one was his wife, one was one of his best buddies, one was a guy that ran a major car dealership where Pat bought all his cars. It was just the fix was in, and Pat basically had unlimited power to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and there was no accountability, and he wanted everything done perfectly now. Or I watched him. I watched him in the studio building one day. He was trying to do a promotional piece for Regent University, and he was supposed to walk across and make some notes on a whiteboard and turn to the camera, make a couple more comments about it. And he just kept stumbling over the verbiage. And finally, he just threw his marker down. He walked over to the house phone in the studio and he called the university. And he said, "Who wrote this garbage I'm doing over here?" And I don't know what the response was. And he says, "Fire him. Fire him today." He said, "This is horrible."
What a good Christian.
Oh my gosh. Just like
So,
that.
Yeah. So
Did you guys have good benefits?
Did you get any
insurance
diamonds
or
and
severance?
gold?
I know. Did you get a little dirty diamond?
Oh yeah, we got.
Did you
junk
pick one
diamonds and benefits cards that were worthless? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
But did you have
No, it was-
insurance and
I'll
everything?
tell you what, the people that worked there, I can't speak highly enough of. I mean, they were just all dedicated to the cause, but I think they were really naive in knowing what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I actually left security for a while and started CBN Animation,
Oh.
animation studio there. so I was out of the picture for a while, and then my Jim Small, who was my best friend, and he was the boss of security at the time, apparently he just had enough and he quit. So I got a call from Pat's office. I was in the animation studio doing some pre-production
Cartoons for
work,
Jesus.
Yes, amen.
and I got called over to Pat's office, and I walked in there, and he came out. He says, "Jim Small just quit security, and I need somebody to keep me alive." And Jim says, "You're the only one in CBN that can do it.
Oh,
Will
wow.
you take over security?" I said, "Sure." So I ran security and an animation thing for a couple of years.
I hope you were
Got
well
lost
paid.
in- No, the thing is, I didn't ask for a blessed cent increase.
What?
And yeah.
Why not?
I'm an idiot.
Oh. Shall we
I
take a
just-
break soon?
Yes.
We're gonna
I
take
This is riveting.
we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, let's talk Ralph Reed. Okay?
I'm sorry if I'm going on too much, but I'm
No,
passionate.
we love this.
Yeah, Ralph Reed. Oh, he's going to make Pat Robertson look like a choir boy.
Okay. So we're gonna cut all this out, and then we're gonna come back from commercial. So
Okay.
we're just gonna pause for a couple seconds. Welcome back to Crazy Rich Neighbors. All right, David, now introduce us and our bougie crew to Ralph Reed and all of his duplicitous ways.
Hang on, I think I just lost my connection here.
No,
Hold
we
on.
can
Okay.
see you.
Oh, okay. All right. My big screen went dead. Ralph Reed, right after Pat's failed presidential campaign, he had this entire organization called Americans for Robertson. And they had some offices, they had desks, they had computers, they had the CBN mailing list and all this other stuff. And Pat decided he was going to form this group called the Christian Coalition. And it was going to be a ultra-conservative, Christian-based political ombudsman type of organization. And they were supposedly going to be unbiased and just present the truth about all the candidates, whether Democratic or Republican, whatever.
Sure, that always happens in politics.
Oh yeah, right up there with the checks in the mail.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he hires Ralph Reed, who was just a snot-nosed kid, if you ask me. But anyway, he gave Ralph pretty much full reign on running the Christian Coalition. And Ralph was a climber. He really was not the most ethical guy.
Sounds
And
like a
I'll
match
tell you-
made in heaven.
Yeah. Well, Pat wanted anything to do to support the Republican Party. He had this organization, and now Ralph Reed's going to be his hitman, basically, for him. So Ralph brings in a buddy of his that to do all the marketing and fundraising for the Christian Coalition. And it was a guy that he was really good friends with. He gives him unlicensed freedom to use the mailing lists of
Again?
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't get caught the first time, and that was a question that I was dying to ask.
Well, speaking of getting caught, the guy who was doing all the marketing and stuff, he also had a secret marketing company and another company that did direct mail. So he was giving himself.
I hope
he
my
was giving
parents
him-
didn't donate to this.
Oh
I think
my
they probably did.
Goodness. Oh,
So he
snap.
was giving himself these uncontested, uncompeted contracts worth millions of dollars.
Oh my, no conflict of interest there. Nope.
Not a bit. Well, a beautiful, sweet woman named Judy Liebert was the chief financial officer.
That's like our former
wind of it.
neighbor.
She got wind of what was going on. She was unaware of it. And she went to Ralph and said, "Hey, did you know this guy's given uncompeted contracts for all the direct mail and everything?"
Mm-hmm.
And Ralph said, "Oh, you don't need to worry about it. He's going to quit pretty soon." Well, he didn't. He quit, and Ralph did nothing about it. So Judy Liebert sent the information that she had to the Federal Election Committee and the IRS
Oh,
and got back to Ralph Reed. So Reed fired her.
Uh-oh.
And then he also confiscated her computer.
you never fired Judy Lee, Bert.
I know, right? We
Well,
should have.
God bless Judy Liebert, because they ended up being investigated. And Ralph Reed was actually, Judy Liebert gave testimony that Ralph Reed was destroying evidence. He was shredding
Oh,
paper that would have incriminated him in all of this.
Ah,
Anyway, so
jeez.
then he burns his bridges at the Christian Coalition by putting out these supposedly impartial voter guides.
yeah.
Oh, Lord.
What could
And all they
possibly go
were-
wrong?
Help.
So in my Ralph Reed book,
What's
I've got
that
copies of the agendas of the meetings that he held with the committee to reelect the president, and they were conspiring with Mary Matlin. And
Oh,
they
yeah. I remember
yeah,
Mary
they were-
Matlin. She was married to
yeah.
James Carville.
Yes.
Mhm.
America's Odd Couple. That too.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right?
I've got the notes from their meetings are in the book, and Ralph Reed.
How did these people evade justice?
I don't know. Hopefully this book will shed some light on it, because
Oh, wow.
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Is he
Let me get
afraid
to the
of for his
real
life?
good stuff.
And
on
can you
Ralph
give
Reed.
our listeners the title of your book so they can
Yeah,
find out more?
the book on Ralph Reed is called "The Trial of the Devil Incarnate."
Oof.
Oof.
Ralph Reed, God's Flim Flam Man.
And
Oh,
what's
wow.
the dirtiest thing that Ralph Reed did?
Okay, well, there's so many.
Jeez.
What got him started right after he left the Christian Coalition, he had a very good friend that was they were all members of this thing called the College Young Republicans Party. A guy named Jack Abramoff, and Abramoff at the time was a very powerful Washington lobbyist. Ralph Reed, and I've got all of Ralph Reed's relevant emails in the book, and I've got canceled checks, and I've got
What?
invoices and all that stuff. Yeah,
Are you afraid for your life?
nah.
He's a bodyguard. He got this.
Okay. And now you have all this
Anyway.
exposure.
But
So if
listen.
anything happens to you, we know who did it.
Right?
I just want to tell your listeners that if you find me in an oil drum floating in Lake Michigan,
It
was
wasn't
Ralph.
suicide.
Oh my God.
No, but back to the dirtiest thing Ralph Reed
And-
ever did.
okay, so there's a email that Ralph Reed sent to Jack Abramoff, said, "Now that I'm done with politics, I need to start humping corporate accounts." And Abramoff was very well connected lobbyist anyway. And you're going to have to really pay attention to this, because I even get confused in it. Abramoff had made a career representing Indian tribes in their casinos as far as tax laws. They had a group of Indians in Louisiana called the Louisiana Coshada tribe. The Coshadas were operating a casino in in Louisiana. They got wind of some casinos that were going to be built in Texas. One was from the Tigua tribe, way on the west side of Texas, and another one was, now this is where it gets confusing, the Alabama Coshada tribe. Okay, so you got the Louisiana Coshadas running their casino in Louisiana. The Alabama Coshada wants to open up a casino on the other side of the border in Texas. Anyway, Ralph Reed and Jack Abramoff and their other partner, Michael Scanlon, get hired by they convince the Louisiana Coshada to pay them a lot of money to help get those two open casinos in Texas shut down before they can even open, and to shut down the Tiguas, which was called the Speaking Rock Casino, to shut that one down as well. They succeeded. I'm cutting to the chase here because it's very intricate and you have to read the book. They ended up shutting down these, they stopped the Alabama casino from opening, and they shut down the Tiguas, which had been functioning. The sad part is the Tiguas casino was paying money to all the tribe members. It was paying for the elderly's health care. It was paying for scholarships for the Indian youth. It provided a lot of jobs. It was doing a lot of benefit for the tribe. Basically, they lost $6 million a month in revenue.
Oh, what?
Because Ralph Reed and Jack Abramoff set up these bogus
Oh my God.
claims against them, these media campaigns.
Holy
It's a
A
Gordian
month?
knot It's a
Ooh.
Gordian knot of intricacy, and it would take me hours to explain
Oh
it. But anyway,
my! So they
so here's
basically, in a long story, so they defrauded these Indian tribes of six
yeah,
million a month.
but here's the extra part. Right after they shut these casinos down, Abramoff and Scanlon go back to the Tiguas, who are beside themselves. They're desperate.
Aw.
They've got no income. Their casino is dark, and they said,
Aw.
"Hey," and in fact, here's the key point: the Tiguas didn't know Abramoff, Scanlon, and Reed were behind the original shutdown.
Yeah.
They did it secretly. So now here's Abramoff and Scanlon back in the Tiguas casino, and they're saying, "Hey, how unfortunate. We heard you guys got shut down. But you know what? We're very well connected in Washington. We think we can get your casino back open.
Oh.
Only gonna cost you about 5 or 6 million, but
Oh.
That's
It's like a cash machine for them. This
and
is
we've got a
nuts.
couple of senators and
Wow.
representatives in Washington in our hip pocket. What we'll do is we'll slip a little bit of legislature in a
Mhm.
very generic bill.
Bill, right?
When it gets passed, you
Ay,
can
ay,
open your
ay.
casino.
Ay, ay, ay.
So they bribed a senator, or I'm sorry, a representative named Bob Ney, Ney. They went to a golfing junket to play. I can't think of the name of it's a legendary course in Scotland, St. Andrews.
Right, right.
I have pictures in the book of them stepping off a private jet
Of course.
and in front of the golf course on this junket. They spent $100,000 to go play golf,
Oh
paid
my.
for by these Indian tribes, supposedly for educational purposes.
Oh,
Anyway,
egregious.
so the thing
disgusting.
ended up collapsing. That one of the two of the senators or representatives backed out of the deal. They got cold feet. Anyway, that's just the tip of the iceberg for Ralph Reed. He started all these bogus campaigns. I have proof that he laundered his money through bogus campaigns. He had a thing called the Faith and Family Alliance that he set
All
up.
in the name of God. This is so
Yes.
Right.
disgusting.
Well, you
Terrible.
want to know what the Faith and Family Alliance was?
Oh,
It was a post office box in Richmond, Virginia, that was run by a guy who was formerly a Regent University student. He got convicted of child pornography.
oh,
What the
no,
fish?
no, no, no.
And he admitted laundering Ralph Reed's money. There's
This is
checks for about
crazy.
This is so
$300,000.
dirty.
I'm
God.
telling you. And
And
this
these,
is
like,
just the tip
All
of
in
the
the name
iceberg.
of the Lord.
I hate this.
They
This
better
is just
all
the
be
tip of
afraid
the
to meet their
iceberg.
makers.
I know, boo.
And
Holy
so anyway,
Toledo.
I mean, I could go on and on and on. That's probably one of a dozen frauds that he's committed, money
So,
laundering,
so
conspiracy.
as our time is running out, how
Yeah.
did you extricate yourself from all of this?
Well, the way that the book is written, remember I mentioned Abramoff and Scanlon
Mm-hmm.
and a few others. They got subpoenaed back in 2004, 2005 to appear before John McCain in an investigation committee called the Gimme 5 Indian Scandal. You can Google it.
Ooh, this
I
sounds
came
juicy.
across now Ralph Reed. I came across the transcript of this entire investigation. Ralph Reed was mentioned and implicated in that thing. I mean, as sure as I'm sitting here,
Mm.
over 100 times he's mentioned in the transcript.
Oof.
There's emails, everything from him showing they conspired, they committed fraud. Well, strangely enough, Ralph Reed was never subpoenaed like Abramoff and Scanlon and the others to appear in the
So somebody
hearing.
must have been bought off, right?
Well, yes, I know who it was, and it's in the book.
What does it rhyme
And
with?
so he was protected. He never had to testify. And
So
Abramoff
dirty.
and Scanlon and about half a dozen other people went to prison as a result of their involvement.
Oh, terrible.
Ralph Reed's clean as a whistle as far as the committee's concerned because he never testified. He was never
I want a
subpoenaed.
part two. We have to do a part
I
two. This
know.
is riveting. Thank you
really
for
is
being so
fascinating.
courageous.
Well, what I did to separate myself from being like the major tattletale is I created my own second congressional Senate hearing.
Oh,
And I created a bunch of fictitious senators using the names of friends and family, and they subpoenaed the fictitious Ralph Reed. But all of the evidence in the book that's brought up through their hearing questions is actual and real.
Wow.
So it's about a 5-hour read, because what I did is I showed Ralph Reed the courtesy that was given Jack Abramoff in the original hearing. Abramoff just took the fifth. He said, I refuse to answer on the grounds that may tend to incriminate me. So Ralph Reed's responses to all the evidence, all the question, I didn't make any of his answers up. I just had him state the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't implicate him, but the evidence is all there. There's canceled checks. There's confession statements from people that they laundered money. There's a guy right now is running the Americans for Tax Reform, and I'm trying to think of his name. Forgive me. He's still in business, and he admitted to laundering money for Ralph Reed.
Wow.
What they get these $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 checks, and they would process them through their organizations. They'd hold them for a day or two, and then they turn around. They'd usually take a couple of $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 in a fee for their laundering it, and then send a clean check to Ralph's organization, his group down in Georgia, called Century Strategies, which is his organization, still in business today.
Great.
And he's got this other group that he called the Christian Coalition on Steroids, and it's called the Faith and Freedom Coalition.
Oh gosh.
And he's still down there on stage telling everybody how wonderful he is.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
He supported a campaign to protect garment workers who were paying basically Chinese slaves, women brought in for China to create these garments, and then they were being farmed out as prostitutes at night. And if they got pregnant, they were forced to get abortions. And Ralph represented garment workers in a campaign to protect them from getting
Oh
held
my God, this
responsible.
is really sick. I
I
hope
think
these
we do need
mofos
a part
burn.
2.
We do.
All right,
David?
I'm telling you.
David, we're out of time, but I'm going to email you. We're going to set up a part 2.
Yeah.
Because this is fascinating.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just get passionate about it. and I
No,
kinda-
we
but
love
this
it.
is
Promise
this
you
is
stuff.
so interesting.
Gosh.
Check your email this weekend. We'll be in
I
touch.
will, because he's
Save it.
probably
We
one of the
want
most-
it.
Yeah, save it for part 2. But so David,
he's the
tell
scummiest guy. Yeah.
our listeners where they can find you and buy your books, etc.
Well, both the books, Protecting Pat Robertson, Confessions of a High-Priced Bag Man, is my first book about Pat. My other book is The Trial of the Devil Incarnate, Ralph Reed, God's Flim Flam Man. Both are available now on Amazon. If you type in the titles or any of the search words, they'll come up. I also have a little personal website. The books are available with some of the reviews and everything. It's called bigfatcatbooks.com. And I just would appreciate it if people would get these, read them, judge for themselves, and start spreading the word. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not so concerned about the Pat Robertson book. I mean, Pat's dead and gone, but Ralph Reed's still out there. He's still
Yeah, I
functioning.
think we need a Ralph Reed deep dive to that
And this-
point, since he's still alive. And
It needs to go viral, because the truth needs to be spread about this guy, because Ralph Reed's own words were, I like to operate from the shadows.
oof.
Uh-oh.
And he's done that his entire career, and he needs to be exposed for the charlatan and the duplicity that
Well,
demonstrated.
We're
we
here
are
for
here.
it.
Yes, we are.
Let's do it.
All
Keggy
right,
and
David,
Lacey's
check
on
your
it.
email this weekend. We're going to set up a part 2 with you. Thank you
Will do.
so much for
Thanks,
your time. We
David.
look forward to part 2.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lord have mercy. That was
me.
bananas.
That was crazy.
Banana. We need part 2.
Absolutely. And
This
then
is-
I grew up watching these scammers.
Oh God, I hope your parents didn't give them money.
I don't know. The
Let's get
Africa
them on the
thing might
line.
have worked.
I'm just kidding. They don't
Well,
know
first
about
I
your
have to tell them
podcast.
about
I know. Never mind. Let's call your sister.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, my Bougie Bible pick this week is Crunch Master.
Yes, Queen.
Do you know these?
Yes, I love them.
Oh my God, Benny Ben, you
Could
have to try some of these.
Could you get a more ratchet-looking bag?
I know. That's because I've been crunching them on the way. They're open, you guys, but it is delicious. Okay, and this is my favorite flavor. It's avocado toast. They have salt and pepper avocado toast, ultimate everything bagel avocado toast, chili lime avocado toast, guacamole.
Holy guacamole!
Yes, it's certified gluten-free. It's vegan, no artificial flavors, colors. It's kosher, zero cholesterol. It does not spike my blood sugar.
Yes, I love them because they're GF, gluten-free.
Yes, they
Delish.
are. Yeah, and they're made from rice, sesame, quinoa, flax, and cassava flour. They are yum yums. Okay, you guys, check them out. They're on Amazon, and they are delicious.
Perfection. My Bougie Bible pick this week is Way dryer sheets from the Way and Deadcool collab. So if you know Way, it's the hair care line from celebrity hairstylist Jen Atkin. They have this scent called Melrose Place, which is so delicious. So Way and Deadcool had done a collab earlier for a laundry detergent, which was my Bougie Bible pick a couple months ago. And now there is a matching dryer sheet collection to give you an extra scent boost in the dryer. It's velvety and rich, a rosy scent. You can use it for all of your laundry needs, your intimates, your delicates, everything. It's so delicious. Check it out on theway.com, TheOuai, or check it out on Deadcool, DEDCOOL. It's
Can I smell it?
It's kind of expensive. It's $14 for 40 sheets, and the detergent is $35. But there's nothing.
Oh, that smells
Isn't it
divine.
delicious?
Oh.
You got to get. I put it on my sheets. I roll around in bed. I'm like, oh, it smells so good.
Oh, that smells so
Right?
fresh and light.
And there's nothing
Nothing artificial?
There's nothing artificial. So it's velvety rich rose with hints of bergamot, lychee, cedarwood, and white musk.
Oh, I'm getting that.
Everything is healthy. So there's no toxic ingredients on top of how.
That smells so luxurious.
So I have the shampoo. I have the body wash.
Ooh.
Now you get the laundry stuff. It is so delicious. Our friend Marissy, she loves all that stuff too.
Oh my God, love it.
So you guys, that's all we got, honeys.
Yes, give this gift of crazy and share this ish with a friend.
We're on the gram at Crazy Rich Neighbors, Facebook at CRN Podcast.
Yes, and be sure to subscribe, you guys, and email us if you have any questions. Just hit us up. Sponsors, hit us up. Info
Ralph
at-
Reed, you want to come out and
I
defend
know.
yourself?
I know. Come on the show. Yes, info at crazyrichneighbors.com is our email.
And don't forget, we're on YouTube and TikTok.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Crazy Rich Neighbors Podcast.
And finally, if you have to ask who your crazy neighbor is, it's probably you. Bye, Bougie Crew. Bye, Benny Ben Ben.
Bye, guys.
We love
Be
you.
good.
Peace out.